Hello, I'm Mike Apatra, and I'm the host of the Hoop Ball DFS Today podcast. Come join us as we go game by game, breaking down our top plays, fades, values, pivots, and talk overall strategy for both tournaments and cash games. And the best part, we're doing this 7 days a week. So come check us out. That's Hoop Ball DFS Today. And you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Apatra for any updates, listener contests, and DFS information.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Good morning, Hoop Ballers. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to another edition of Hoop Ball DFS Today. I am joined here by a member that we haven't had in a little bit now. He was one of our featured guys earlier. Took a little bit of a hiatus on the weekends, but he used to be our weekend warrior, but he's now back and better than ever for this Tuesday slate, Tuesday, August 25th. How you doing, Dave? Dave Menkoff is back.
Doing great. I'm really excited to be back. Excited to delve into some high-octane playoff basketball with you.
Yeah, it is high octane. We have a slate tomorrow. It's the first slate so far that there's not 4 games. We've been used to the 4 games every day, but 2 teams swept, so we won't be having that. There's only going to be 2 games on this slate. It's going to be a different one than we've been used to lately, except for that Saturday play-in game slate when we had that one. But even then, you did the captains and stuff. This is going to be a fun one, and these are both going to be highly betted games, and great way to segue into one of my favorite things in my bookie, guys. If you've been listening, you already know that my bookie is going to match your deposit 100%. So there's never a better time to get in now. Football is only 2 weeks away. We're right in the heart of the NBA playoffs. MLB season's going in. NHL is right in the heart of the playoffs. Golf's out. UFC's every few weeks, a big event. I mean, there's hundreds of things going on here. If you're going to get in now and you get that 100% match of your deposit, you really can't beat it. But yeah, Dave, we're on a 2-game slate here. We got the Jazz and the Nuggets. The Jazz are leading right now. They could close it out. And they're up 3-1. They can close this one out. And then Mavs and the Clippers are tied at 2-2. Before we get into it, what are your thoughts on these 2 series and the playoffs in general?
Well, I have to say these playoffs, bubble and all, have been quite entertaining. I am definitely on board with just the excitement level, considering the lack of fans, the lack of home court advantage. These 2 series in particular have been quite entertaining, going down to the wire, and it's certainly enjoyable to watch. And with so much great offense and so many great individual performances, I'm just excited to see what comes next in these matchups.
Yeah, you said it. Both these games were 2-point difference the last game. Both these teams. The Jazz won by 2 points, and if you don't know by now, you go watch what happened in that last final overtime seconds of the Mavs-Clippers game, because Luka is something else there. It's just fantastic to watch this guy play. That shot, he oozed confidence. You had to know it was going in before it even left his hand. He was just ready for the moment. And it's crazy to think he's only 21. Only 21 years old, and this is his first taste of the playoffs. Second year, like 42-point triple-double, almost 17 rebounds. I'm at a loss for words. But yeah, let's jump right into this. This is going to be a quicker one because we only have 2 games on the docket. Though when I say that, we're going to probably talk about a lot of other people we wouldn't normally talk about, because when you only have 1-2 games, the money gets tight. You can't always squeeze these big guys in. You have to get lower guys. And in the playoffs, minutes are also tight and rotations are tight. So it's harder to find these guys. But let's get right into it. So first game on the docket is 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. It is the Jazz and the Nuggets. I was going to say at and use the one team at the other, but they're all in the bubble, so I'll just say versus from now on. The Jazz versus the Nuggets. The Jazz are up 3-1 in this series. It's a pivotal game 5. The Jazz are a negative 3-point favorite on this. A negative 150 on the money line. The Nuggets are plus 130. Over under 220.5. On the Jazz, we have Ed Davis out, and we have Foreman Wright out. Not really big rotation guys. And on the Nuggets, we have Will Barton is not going to return anytime soon, unfortunately, and Gary Harris is questionable. I'm not sure if he's going to play. I don't know if he will, but it is Game 5, and they could get knocked out, so maybe he jumps in there. And big news out of the Denver Nuggets locker room. Michael Porter Jr., who was cooking in the bubble, and he was cooking the first couple games of this series as well, he is going to actually come off the bench in this one, and so is Torrey Craig. They are going to be replaced by Monte Morris and Jerami Grant in the starting lineup. So they're going a little big. Smaller in the backcourt, bigger in the front court. I guess Michael Porter Jr. is huge anyway. So, but yeah, Dave. Let's start with the Jazz. We'll save the Nuggets for last because they got a couple moving parts here. We saw Donovan Mitchell put up another 50-point game. I was talking about Luka. I didn't even mention Donovan Mitchell has been playing fantastic. They're 1-1 when he scores 50 points, which is funny to think about. But another 51-point game, 7 assists. He took 27 shots, 17 of 18 from the free throw line. This guy has been money. Let's start with this backcourt. Who do you like? Are you feeling Mitchell at 9,700? That price tag is skyrocketing now. He's the third highest guy on the slate.
Yeah, you definitely nailed it. In terms of the Jazz, you have to start with Donovan Mitchell. His price tag has only gone up by $200, which is just crazy to me, considering he just put up another 50 burger on the Nuggets. So that's something to keep in mind. 9,700, you're getting, dare I say, a little bit of a discount on him, considering how well he's been playing, the confidence that he's been playing with as well. A bunch of young guys have been just showing a ton of confidence, and it's great to see for the future of the league. But I digress. Mike Conley, as a veteran, he came back. Clearly, he's rejuvenated after the birth of his child, so he's very excited to be back, it looks like, and he's playing like it, coming off some great performances as well. His salary is only up to $6,700, a rise of only $400, so he's another guy that I'm going to be targeting heavily on the Jazz side. Another guy that I'm going to be looking at a little bit as well, not as much as the first two guys I mentioned, but Joe Ingles coming off an absolute dud game where he put up 0 points. At 5,100, his salary didn't drop as much as you would kind of like for someone that put up such a poor performance, but it is down to 5,100, so he might be able to get hot, but he's definitely taken a hit with return of Mike Conley. So I would say Mitchell and Mike Conley are definitely the top two targets in the backcourt, and then from the bigs, sticking with the Rudy Gobert in the series, he's been pretty consistent. At 7,600, he should be able to hit some value. So I like him as far as a pretty good mid-tier big man option on this 2-game slate.
Yeah, for me, it's you mentioned Joe Ingles didn't score a point last game. He only scored 2 the first or the game before that too. Both games, coincidentally, Mike Conley returned or played both of those games. So Joe Ingles hasn't played the greatest when Mike Conley was there throughout the year and earlier in the series or playoffs or bubble, I should say. I'm getting all these things mixed up. So I'm not sure if I'm totally in on him, but if I'm around 5,100, possibly. There's only 2 games, so everybody gets. You might have to look at everybody here, but dollar for dollar, I wouldn't go him. But I do love Mike Conley. You mentioned he's been playing great since he came back. I think he's been playing great all bubble, even before the kid. But since the kid, he's come back and scored 53 points combined in those 2 games. he's been awesome. So I'm really in on him, and 6,700 is a really fair price. He's beat those price tags twice already. I can see it again. Mitchell, it's hard to say no Mitchell for me, but with Kawhi Leonard only 300 more, I would much rather lean in Kawhi's direction. I do like a lot of guards in this slate, so that changes it up a little bit. But there's not too many shooting guards. That's the one thing. To me, it's harder to find a shooting guard, so I possibly would look Mitchell. But if I can find one and fill it there, I wouldn't play. I can't see another 50-point burger from Mitchell back to back. He might score 30 like he did the second game, but I don't think he's going to bring you back 5x value, which he needs at least 50 points. I feel much safer with a Kawhi Leonard, or I know people are going to be gravitating toward Luka after that giant game, and he's also only 1,300 more, so he's in the realm of possibilities as well. So I probably lean away from Mitchell. As far as Gobert, he's in play. I'm not totally in on him, but he's not too bad. There's another guy I like cheaper, just so I can get more exposure to a possible 2 of these big guy lineups. But I don't mind Gobert either. I did like Royce O'Neal until his price bumped up into the 4K. I remember first couple games I was looking at him, he was only in the 3s, which was awesome. But now 45, it kind of takes a little bit of his luster out. He did score that 37-point game, but that's his absolute ceiling. So I'm kind of 45. There are a few other people around here that I might be playing instead. Is there anyone else on this Jazz team that you're looking at, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the Jazz, a guy he's been pretty consistent as kind of the big 6-man option has been Jordan Clarkson. His price tag has been hovering in the 5,200 range. He's at 5,200 this game. I definitely liked him a lot more when he was priced in the 4,000s. Mm-hmm. But he's a guy that can get hot at any point. He's definitely a big volume scorer. And if this game turns into any type of blowout situation, he's going to get a ton of run as well. So he's another guy that I'll definitely look at as well.
Yeah, I don't mind him as well either. I did like him better when, as you said, when he was in the 4.6, 4.5, 4.7 range. Now it's 5.2. A little less margin for error, but he's still a solid play to me. To me, the Conley and him are probably the 2 people I'm gravitating towards the most. And there's something on DraftKings that I've noticed lately that I do want to let the viewers know because it's been weird. I'm not sure what the reasoning is. But I don't know if you've clicked on someone's price tag and it's not what we recorded. It's $200 less or a couple $100 off here and there. I've been seeing it the last few times and I didn't think really anything of it. I thought, oh, maybe I just was like, oh, that's weird. Maybe I read it wrong. But after 4 days or so in a row, now I'm starting to think something's up with when they show their previous price tags. I don't know. If you're a viewer or Dave yourself and myself, I'm going to look at it. Next time these teams play, look at what it says because it's right now we'll see Donovan Mitchell at 97. If he's not 97 the next time this team plays, I don't understand it. But just keep an eye on that because it's very weird. I remember a couple times in a few of these podcasts I'm saying, oh, so and so move this price to this price to this price. I don't know if those are fully accurate now because looking at it closer, not everything that we recorded and said their price tags, when you go back on their previous games, they're a couple $100 off now on their salary. And I'm not sure what the reasoning is for that. I don't know if it's trickery or what the case is, but it's a little weird. I just had to, that's something that I've been seeing and it finally hit me that, oh yeah, this shouldn't be. I don't know. Have you seen any of that, Dave?
You know, I haven't really noticed it, but it's something that, I mean, you're calling it out now. It's something that I'm going to be looking at very closely next time I look at previous games. But it's something that if true, DraftKings needs to identify what is happening and get a correction on it.
Yeah, because I even noticed it reading our layup lines, and I would see the price tag that we had writing it, and then you go to a a player's previous game, and it's only a couple hundred off a lot of times, and some of them probably not off, but I did see that a lot, and I was just not sure what the reasoning for or why it was like that. It was just weird. It's something that I'm definitely going to keep track of more. Right now, I'm like, I know I saw that, but I didn't take any pictures or anything. But if I go back and look, I'll definitely add the numbers, and they're not the same. That's all I'm saying. I'm not sure what they're doing, but they're definitely not the same. But moving on. To instead of that, let's jump on over to the Nuggets, because the Nuggets are shaking and doing a lot of different things on their starting five and whatnot. We might have Gary Harris return. He's not going to start regardless. He hasn't played all bubble. He's been out. I don't see him playing too many minutes if he plays, but it is game 5 and they are on the brink, so maybe they can throw him out for 20 minutes. He is their best perimeter defender, and Donovan Mitchell is showing them that they really don't have much perimeter defense without this guy and without Will Barton. So he could possibly play, and he's only 3,900. But yeah, they are benching Michael Porter Jr. He will be coming off the bench, and Torrey Craig will be coming off the bench for Monte Morris and Jerami Grant. Starting with that news, do you have any interest in any of those 4 guys? And Gary Harris. I will throw in all 5. Do you have any interest in Porter, Grant, Morris, Harris, or Craig?
Yeah, so I would say with the mix up in kind of the starting lineup, definitely some interest. I think the Gary Harris use is going to be interesting to see, given that this is kind of a winner or go home scenario for them. That might be interesting to see. At 3,900, if Gary Harris plays 15, 20 minutes, he might be worth a flyer, given his such a low price tag. I really like Grant, given he's starting now 4,700. He's not really priced up given his starting rotation spot. Same with Monte Morris, $4,000. You're getting a starting guard price at a pretty severe discount. So I would say those would be out of those 4. I would say those are my 3 looks on the Nuggets side for sure.
Yeah, I think Gary Harris, if he plays on a slate where there's only 2 games and a lot of these guys have a big price differential, if you can get him and he plays 20 minutes or so, if he could get 15, 20, I think he can bring back 5X for you and get you 20 points there. I know he hasn't played in a while, so that's always a thing that you got to keep on track. But he probably won't have much, if any, usage, especially for those people that just set it and forget it and don't really look. And you get close to game time and he gets ruled in, so maybe that happens. But for the other guys, I'm not. The only one I will not touch is Torrey Craig. He's only intriguing a tiny bit. Not even intriguing. That's not the right word. He was only a little bit interesting. Not less boring than usual because he was starting, but now that he's not even starting, I can forget him. Monte Morris at 4K on a very small slate is not bad. Knowing he's starting, knowing he played a ton of minutes last game, he's going to probably get chewed up on defense anyway, but for 4K, if you're around that range, there's really not many people at 4K and under to look at, so he's not bad. Jerami Grant, I really like him, 47. That's a very good price. He was playing a lot of minutes anyway, but this just ensures that he's going to play small forward and power forward and probably see 40 minutes. So, I mean, to bring back 5X, he'll need to score 25 points, DK points, but I think he's going to play 40 minutes, and that's a lot of time for a guy under 5K. So I'm definitely in on him. Michael Porter Jr. is the only question mark for me, depending on how I feel when we get closer to game time. I know he only played 15 in the blowout and 23 last game, but when this guy is on, this is when they were playing their best in the bubble, not in the season, but in the bubble. And at 57, his price tag went from, he hit 88,000 almost. So this is a big suppression of that price, and you only need 30, 35 points to bring back value. So I'll look at him, but him now coming off the bench and having maybe not the big role that we were seeing is something I'll caution. But at 57, if I'm around that range, because we're only going to have two two teams, so we're going to be landing on a lot of different people, playing people. We're not going to like every single person we play, but at 57, I'll definitely give him some consideration. But how about the other guys? Do you have any interest in a Joker? Oh, I tried to say Jokic and Joker at the same time. I'll let you go from there, man.
Yeah, no, I would say, sorry, I can't catch my thoughts here, but
I butchered it too much.
Perhaps, but Jokic is someone that you have to target. I mean, again, it's a winner go home matchup. He's obviously the highest priced center option on this slate. 9,400. I mean, he's been fairly consistent over the last 4 games that they've played. Outside of that one game, the big blowout 2 games ago, he's been putting up anywhere between 47 and 53 fantasy points a game. So he should be able to hit value at 9,400. I really like him at the center spot. And then Jamal Murray is a guy that I would have liked a little bit more in the 7K range. He's priced up to 8,000 after that huge 50-point performance last game. So that might be something. It would be more of a risk play than a go-to play in that standpoint. I would say he would be more of a GPP play versus a standard cash play in this 2-game slate, because he has a volatile kind of skill set. He's averaged anywhere between 82 fantasy points in the series all the way down to 22 fantasy points in game 2. So I would say those are my 2 targets from the Nuggets side.
Yeah. I mean, Murray just went off, so it's hard to not like him. But I do see the 8K price bump is a little tricky on a slate where you want to get a Leonard or a Doncic in there, and possibly, if you can, get 2. You have Joker. I did it again. Oh my gosh. You have Joker there at 94, which is not a bad price. And you said it. It's a win or go home game. So I want some exposure to him too. I still like the other 2 big guys better, and I would rather pay up a little bit to get them. But on a win or go home game, this guy's going to have to bring it. At least one game, get a game 6 in there. So if I'm doing a ton of lineups, I do want some exposure to him. If I don't, I would look at Murray's way. But I know I'm going to be playing myself some Jerami Grant, so I'll see who else I can get on this lineup. The next game has a big differential in the over-under, so I'll see who I can fit there. But I do like it's going to be hard to get a Leonard and a Jokic or a Doncic and a Jokic together. So I'll probably have to pivot to Murray. And after coming off a 50-point game, it's not very bad. 50-point, almost triple-double. It's not a bad pivot. All right, man. Anything else you have on the Nuggets or the Jazz side?
Yeah, no, I think we definitely covered most of the guys that I'm looking at in this matchup. I think final thoughts on this matchup is just to see, hoping the game stays close and we can see some great scores out of these guys.
Yeah, that's it. And the next game is the intriguing game. We talked about it before. Luka hit a game winner. It's now 2-2. Porzingis got ejected in the first game. The Clippers prevailed, and he did not play in the last game. And it went into overtime, and the Mavs won on a game winner. This game starts at 9 p.m. The Mavs are 6.5-point underdogs. They have a plus 225 money line. The Clippers have a negative 275 money line. And the over-under is 236, a whopping 16 points higher than the last game. So this is where Vegas says they're going to score. And they both scored over 130 last game. I know Utah and Denver were close to it as well. So these are both pretty high-scoring games. But the big news here is, we have Luka and Trey Burke are both probable, but Porzingis is still questionable. I'm not sure where he's going to wind up. We'll talk about what we like if he plays, if he doesn't play, but he's a true questionable right now. He missed the last game, and this knee must not be right. because he was battling earlier. He came back, and now he missed another game, especially a pivotal game 4 that they needed. So that's big. And Patrick Beverley is doubtful, closer to out than questionable. So I don't think we'll be seeing him as well, and that's all the Clippers have. But let's start with this Dallas team. Mentioned it at the just now. Let's start with Porzingis. If he plays, do you have any interest in him at 91?
Yeah, that's a great question. If he plays and is visibly healthy or relatively healthy, I mean, that price tag is something. It's definitely the highest it's been in this series and in quite some time for Mr. Porzingis. But based on his last performance in that big time game without Luka, I mean, 57 fantasy points in that one. I think he's a guy that I'm going to put some shares in for sure, given just his skill set and given how he's been playing throughout the season while healthy. But again, I would look and make sure that he is going to actually play and make sure that you're cognizant of that in your lineups and you take that into consideration so you can make a quick pivot if he ends up being out from that standpoint.
Yeah, because if he does end up being out, you're going to have to save at least 700 just so you can get to Kawhi Leonard there. So be mindful of that if you do try and put Porzingis in your lineup. To me, I think the safer play, we mentioned him a little bit, if you're going to go big at center, I think it just makes more sense to play Joker. I keep doing it. I think it's just ingrained in my head now. I don't think it's a mistake. The first time's a mistake. The second time's my bad. The third time's that's just me now. I don't know. But yeah, for 300 extra, I think he's the safer play. You know he's going to play. It's a game. I mean, all 4 of these teams need this game. But the Mavs, if they go down there, they still have a game 6. I think I'd feel safer going with the Joker. I got it right. Jokic in this one for 300 more, knowing that he's not dealing with any injuries. And Porzingis is just we don't know exactly what he looks like. But I would rather pay up for a Leonard than both of them. Though if I'm in that range and I'm going high on center, I think Jokic is the safer play here. But if he does play, or if he doesn't play, do you have any interest in a Maxi Kleber or Kleba? I think I said that wrong. Kleba, Boban, or Dorian Finney-Smith? Any of these guys that play a lot of minutes in the front court now?
Yeah, absolutely. Maxi Kleber, I mean, at 4,200, he's priced, maybe near the top of his fantasy output. But I mean, in last game with Porzingis out and slight foul trouble, he did put up 25 fantasy points, which isn't enough to hit value. So I would say he would be, out of those 3 guys you just mentioned, he would be the number one option from kind of the lower tier section of the board in these 2 games. I would say on my end, he would definitely be the main target out of those 3 for sure.
Yeah, and I love me some Boban. I just wish he played more. His point per minute production is insane. This guy just rips down boards. He's so big, and he scores with ease around the rim. But he's only getting 10 to 15 minutes in this series, so you really can't count on him. But Kleba, I do like Kleba too. For 4,200, I think that's a very good play. He hasn't done much of anything this whole series, but he's played 34, 33, 35, 37 minutes in all 4 games. He's only went 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 1 of 5, and 2 of 8 from the field, so he hasn't hit water if he was falling out of a boat, as they say. But eventually he's going to hit a shot, and he's going to score more than the 19 total points he scored in all 4 games. He's 1 of 16 from the 3-point range, 1 of 16 in this series. Those are going to fall, and at 4,200, especially if Porzingis doesn't play, and a guy that's getting 30-plus minutes, 33 at the minimum so far in the series, I like that price tag. I think he can bring back at least 20 points, and he's done it twice. He's gotten 11, 23, 11, and 25 DK points in the 4 games, and that's with not hitting anything. If he hits a couple shots, I think that's a very good play, and especially on a slate where you need to go after cheaper guys because there's only 2 games. So he's one of the plays that I really like. Hoping that Porzingis doesn't play, it helps him a little bit. But even if he does play, that's still not a bad price to target him. But let's move on to the wings. Before we get to the big guy, let's move on to the wings because they've been playing great, and all of them stepped up last game. Seth Curry, Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway, all these guys stepped up big time without Porzingis. With or without Porzingis, do you have any interest in any of these guys?
Yeah, I definitely would say let's take some shots at some of these guys. I would say more of the lower tier guys, given the volatility in their games when they get very hot, very streaky. Seth Curry at 4,600 and Trey Burke at 4,500, towards the lower tier of the price point. If they get hot, given big game 5 here, I definitely like them quite a bit. Given the need for scoring in this type of matchup against the Clippers, I think they can really outperform their price tags.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good call. I like, to me, I think Hardaway's not bad, but at 58, I'm going to fade him more so than the other 2 guys. You're pretty much relying on scoring from Tim Hardaway because he doesn't do much else. Well, he might pitch in a steal. He pitches in a couple rebounds, maybe 1 or 2 assists. But you're pretty much relying on threes and scoring from him. And getting 5x from him is a lot harder because he doesn't do much of anything else. Especially if Porzingis plays, that means some shots are going to get losing him. But I do like me some Seth Curry and I do like me some Trey Burke. More so, I like Burke player for player right now because he's playing a little bit better, but there's not that many shooting guards on the slate where the money works for me that I like. So that's why I give Seth Curry the edge here because Trey Burke only has point guard eligibility and Seth Curry has shooting guard eligibility, and they're only 100 mixed up there. And I like a lot of the point guards on the slate. We mentioned Conley, we mentioned Morris, we mentioned I'm trying to blame Murray. There's a lot of different point guards on this slate that I like. We'll get to Luka. So to me, I like Seth Curry the most out of these 3 guys with the shooting guard eligibility and the smaller price tag. And he's playing his father-in-law in Doc Rivers. So it's always something to play harder about.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, let's get on to the big guy, man. Are you in on Luka after that 42-point, 17 rebound, 13 assist, game-winning shot in overtime for his first playoff appearance ever? Are you in on him after that at 11K?
I mean, when you put it that way, I would say it's very hard for me not to put Luka in my lineups, given that he has been rising up to the challenge game in and game out in this series, even calling his first game an absolute terrible game according to him, where he still put up 65 fantasy points. So he's a guy with a floor of around 50 to 55 points, with the ability to go off for in the 80s and 90s. So it's hard for me not to sit here and say to fade Luka, unless you really want to be a contrarian in your tournaments and not play Luka. But otherwise, I would say definitely go heavy on the Luka in this matchup.
Yeah, it's hard not to play this guy. I know he was dealing with an ankle injury, but it didn't. I wouldn't have noticed if he never limped off in the game before and it wasn't reported. You couldn't have told that this guy was hurt. He just put up, I said 42. He scored 43. I was a point off. This guy just was on fire all game in the zone. It's hard to say that no one can guard him right now on a team that has Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but he was roasting them. Pat Bev might not play. I'm in the camp that I think Pat Bev is overrated to the point that people think he's the greatest perimeter defender in the league. I'm not in that camp. I'm in the more of the Draymond camp where I think people think he's really good because he tries hard and he yells and screams and talks a bunch of crap. But he's pretty good. I don't think he's great. Even if he plays, I think Luka's going to have his way. So just like you said, it's hard not to play this guy. It is possible to get Kawhi and Luka in, or Luka and any of the other big stars in, Mitchell, his running mate, or Jokic. I almost did it again, or Jokic, and still have money left over because there is some solid value here. But yeah, you can't not play Luka on a 2-game slate. It's very hard to just, even if he brings you 55 points and just hits 5x value, he might be the leading scorer on the card. So you still might have to play him regardless. But anything else on this Mavs team before we move on to the final team of the night?
No, I think we went through every different avenue of the Mavericks lineup we could possibly think of here.
Yeah. And I don't mind Dorian Finney-Smith. I saw him before. More so if Porzingis doesn't play. I think his rebound potential goes up, and I like him a little bit there. But yeah, let's go to the Clippers. So he said Pat Bev is doubtful, probably not going to play. Paul George has I'm not going to lie, I'm having so much fun looking at these things because the Clippers got a little cocky, especially when they were laughing at Damian Lillard, and most of them think that this is handed to them, even though the only one, or the championship is handed to them, even though the only one who's had gotten to a final before is Kawhi, and he's the only one that's just dead serious. But Playoff P, as he called himself, and people are calling him Pandemic P because his shot has been 4 for 17, 3 for 16, 3 for 14 the last 3 games, 4 for 25 from 3. Something, I don't know what's off with him. He just doesn't look right. Supposedly his shoulders are both good, both healthy, but can you take a plunge at Paul George at 82? Is that something you can do?
I would be probably in the minority here, but I think given the fact that someone with his shooting stroke and shooting ability, shooting 25% on his shot attempts the last 3 games, I don't see that being sustainable. And at 8,200, if he even makes, let's say, 35% of his shots, which is very, very possible, he's looking at the numbers where he should be able to hit 40 fantasy points. All he needs to do is just not miss more than 10 shots out of the small amount that he takes. I mean, we're really splitting hairs here, but Paul George can't possibly continue this trend of just poor play. So with that in mind, I would take some shots at Paul George only in GPP formats versus cash considerations, because you just never know what's going on with him. But at that price tag, why not take a few shots at him, especially given this high profile matchup?
Yeah, it's tough. It's just very tough because a guy of his talent should not be playing this poorly. Not poorly. He's playing like pathetic at this point. That is a tough criticism, but you can't consider yourself, or have people consider you a top 10, 15 player in this league, and you've made 10 shots of 47 in the last 3 games, 10 of 47. He's still almost reaching value, which is crazy. This last 3 games, he has 33, 36, and then 25. He really fell off there, but 33 and 36, he's just missing 5x by a little bit. Obviously, you don't want that, especially on a 2-game slate. I think he has to hit some shots at some point. But for me, I would just rather, like you said in the cash game, I genuinely leaning towards cash more. I would feel much safer paying up and going Kawhi Leonard, especially in a 2-2 game, a guy that has been here, done this multiple times. He's going to come out and ball, and I don't have any questions with this guy. I just know Kawhi Leonard's going to have a fantastic game. I can't say that for Paul George. I think his shot's going to turn around, but I don't want to risk it. And if he doesn't have a if he still shoots even like okay, it just might sink me right there. So I feel safer with Kawhi Leonard. Speaking of Kawhi, how do you feel about Kawhi?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to play Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs, and especially in a matchup where they're 2 games from elimination. I mean, this is his time to shine typically in his playoff career. So he's been very consistent throughout the series as well, putting up anywhere from 53 fantasy points all the way up to 65. So he should have no problem hitting value, and I would put him in, if not all, most of my lineups at 10,000 salary.
Yeah, I think he's just been in the zone, even most of the bubble, but in the playoffs especially. And when Paul George is not playing up to his capabilities, I think to me it's just makes a safe pivot and an easy pivot. And there is the possibility that it's possible to get Kawhi and Luka in your lineups and not have anybody that's just really bad. You can still get these guys in your lineup, still have money left over, and still have all starters pretty much, or people playing over 30 minutes. So it's possible to do this. You just have to be a little creative and whatnot. But let's move on to after the big two. Let's go to everybody else on here, but we'll start with Lou Williams, Marcus Morris, and Zubats. Any interest in any of these 3 guys?
I would say out of those 3, the safest play, although it is the highest price of those 3, would be Lou Williams at 6,400. He's a guy that is just an absolute microwave scorer off the bench. Especially with Paul George not, picking up the slack. He's been averaging about 31 minutes a game in this series, and he's coming off a huge game with 36 points on very efficient shooting, 13 out of 20, where he put up 50 fantasy points, and his price tag only jumped to 6,400. So he's a guy that I'll have some shares of. Out of those 3, he's my main target for sure.
Yeah, I like Lou. I liked him a lot more when he was around 5K, 5'1". I remember I was on here a few days ago, and I said I was all about him. He played 31 minutes in the first game, and his legs are under him now. But at 6'4", it's a little harder for me to like him as much, knowing that, as you said, Paul George has to turn it around at some point. Kawhi Leonard's going to take more charge. Just a lot of room to him to hit his floor in this one. Harder to bring 5x back because I would want 30, 35 points from him. Easily doable. He dropped 36 actual points last game with 5 assists and 4 boards on 20 shots. Definitely easily his most shots in a long time. So I'm not 100% on board with the new $1,000 price jump, but he's still a guy you might want to look at, though not in a 2-game slate for me. Morris, not too bad himself at 56. There are some other people around his skill set that I like, but he has been playing pretty well in this series. He's played over 30 minutes each game. He has 30-point games and 30-plus point games, and then a 20-point game. So he has been bringing back some solid value, so he's a guy to look at. I don't mind Zubats, though. He's played. His role has been changing, though. It's 22, 18, 30, and 22 minutes. That's the only thing. Yeah, I liked it better when you knew he was getting 24, 25, definitely, because at 4-3, he can easily get you 25 points, 30 DK points, and bring back value. But he's not that bad. To me, I think it's more of the guy right under him in Montrezl Harrell at 41. That's where I would be leaning, but I don't mind Zubats as well. I think Harrell's played 4 games now this entire series. He played 20 minutes, over 20 once. I think it's time now that he gets 25, 30 minutes. I think he's ready for it. And at 41, I'm willing to take that plunge. Do you have any interest in Harrell?
I want to have interest in Harrell. I really do, given his low price tag, but he hasn't really shown much yet since he's come back. I mean, he's certainly due as well. for one of those vintage Montrezl Harrell games he was playing earlier this season, where he was one of the 6-man of the year candidates. So he's certainly a guy that can fill it up in bunches with points, boards, some blocks and steals as well. But I don't have a ton of interest in Montrez given the question marks surrounding him. But at that price tag, I'll definitely take a few shots at him.
Yeah, I think it's just very cheap, and especially on a 2-game slate. At some point, they're gonna, in a pivotal game 5. If you lose this, you're down 3-2. In pivotal game 5, I think he's ready to play more minutes than getting his feet wet, and I think Doc wants him to, especially if this game stays close. He can't really toy around with it, so that's the reason why I like him. And at this price, you're not going to really, if he starts playing 25, 30, 35 minutes a game, you're never going to see him around 4K again. So that's why I would jump on him now, but I could see where I jump on him and he only plays 20 minutes there. But after them, there's really not many people left. Maybe a Reggie Jackson you look at, Shamet. Is there anyone else besides those two, or are you looking at those two?
No, actually, for me, I'm not looking at anyone else on the Clippers side. I mean, it's pretty much, the main guys for me, especially if this game stays close. I don't see anyone else really taking the ball and trying to finish the game off. So I would say the guys we just covered are definitely the main ones that I'm looking at.
Yeah. To me, Kawhi and Trez are probably my two top guys to target on this team. Trez for pricing and Kawhi because he is the top guy. But if you, to me, I've been always leaving money on the table, so I didn't have to get this far. But if you're in the camp that you're trying to get as many big stars as possible, and there are people who do that. There are a lot of people who try and do that, and that makes sense. I wouldn't, if you had to look Shamet's way and Reggie Jackson's way, those two along with a possible Gary Harris who might play, those are the only three people I'm even looking at under 4K. Not that I'm too excited about looking at them, but if you're, again, in that camp that you're trying to get as many big people as possible, then you can take a look at them. And it looks like someone's opening the door, man. It sounds like it's time to go. We did do all four of our teams here. We did both games. And is there anything you want to leave the viewers with before we head on out of here?
I think the last thing will be let's hope for some great games and some high fantasy point totals. I'm really excited for these two matchups, both pivotal. I can't even speak. Sorry, at this point in the night or in the morning. In terms of just big game 5s here, it's going to be exciting to watch for sure.
Yeah, and it's okay, buddy. You're on the show with the butcher, so people tend to lose their words when I'm around, because I do it all the time. I called him Jokerich or whatever I said 5 times. Now I can't even say it. I said it came naturally to me, and now I can't remember what I said. I'm butchering my butcher. That's just what happens. but
it happens.
Yeah, it happens. But yeah, I'm excited for these two games. We got two game 5s. The Nuggets, the number 3 seed, they almost got the 2 seed. They were looking to make a deep run because they have a deep team. I know Harris and Barton haven't played, but to be down 1-3 right now, that's going to be an exciting game. And then you got a surprising 2-2 with the Clippers and Mavs, and Luka looking like the player of the playoffs right now. So I know there's only 2 games of basketball. We're used to the 4 lately, but these are going to be 2 exciting games. Definitely keep an eye on who's in, who's out, and news before this first game locks. The good thing about Porzingis being questionable, or not good, but the good thing is that the game before them, the Jazz and the Nuggets, don't start till 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. This game starts at 9, so there is a lot of time for them to see how Porzingis is feeling. And they're all on the East Coast, so every game or all the time is the same. So there is time to get news on Porzingis, see him in warm-up, see if he can go. Hopefully we can get that news in before 6:30, because if you put him in your lineup and you don't save some extra cash, you're just going to be leaving stuff on the table, and it's going to be a rough pivot to try and make things work after that. But yeah, that's it. And these are going to be 2 good games. Wish everybody luck, and that'll be it for another edition of Hoopball DFS Today. On my behalf, I'm Santino Cocone. You can find me on Twitter at Santino Cocone. And David Menkoff, you can find him. Dave, tell him where you can find yourself on Twitter.
You can find me at dmenk33.
dmenk33. Awesome. And guys, don't be shy about checking around all the new stuff we got going on in Hoopball. We have new team podcasts all the time, new articles and whatnot. Dave will be writing the layup line tonight, so be on the lookout for that. If you're more of a reader, you probably won't be getting this far into the show, but if you're more of a reader, definitely check out that layup line. It's going to be fun. We also have Instagram page, Facebook page, all this awesome stuff. And don't forget to check out manscaped.com and enter the promo code hoopball20. Get 20% off your order. You get free shipping, all that good stuff. But yeah, have a good night, or have a good day, guys. I can't even talk. Have a good day, guys, and we'll catch you again tomorrow. I believe myself and Micah Patra will be on for that one. So that'll be a boring one. All right, guys. Take care.
This has been a Hoopball presentation.